الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد, we're going to continue tonight with some benefits on adab, Islamic manners, adab, from Kitab al-Jami', the last portion of the book Bulugh al-Maram, the last portion of the book Bulugh al-Maram, the Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. And this chapter is dealing with all adab. And then this hadith, it comes under the bab al-Zuhd wal-Wara'. Al-Zuhd wal-Wara', which is, and hopefully we'll get to the other chapters. This chapter comes after the chapter of al-Bir was-Sila, being good to the parents and keeping the ties of the family. After that chapter, there's this chapter here, Bab al-Zuhd wal-Wara'. And this hadith is an Nu'man بن بشير رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله يقول وأهوى النعمان بإصبعيه إلى أذنيه إن الحلال بين والحرام بين وبينهما مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس فمن اتقى الشبهات فقد استبرأ لدينه وإرضه ومن وقع في الشبهات وقع في الحرام كالراعي يرعى حول الحمى يوشك أن يقع فيه ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى ألا وإن حمى الله محارمه ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. متفق عليه. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. And firstly, the chapter of al-Zuhd, as it comes under, in this hadith has to deal with staying away from things that are doubtful. So firstly, al-Zuhd, and there are many books on al-Zuhd and al-Wara', and it did many different definitions. From the shortest, أنه قلة الرغبة في الشيء, is a lack of interest in something. When a person has a lack of interest, they're not really interested in something like that. They call it zuhud, abstinence from the dunya, and usually it has to do with the dunya. So a person who's not really into a lot of, let's say, dunya things, right? They're not really into a lot of flashy things. For example, they're not really flashy, they're real basic. Doesn't mean that it's not nice, but it's not, maybe the hottest thing on the market that everybody knows about. Maybe it's just basic, it's no name, using clothing or something like that. No name brand, they're not really in all that. Doesn't mean they don't have money. It doesn't mean they can't buy it if they wanted to. But their interest is not in that. They're not really into that. Right? Zahid. We call this type of person a Zahid. They abstain from that type of stuff. They abstain from a lot of stuff that, it doesn't mean that those things are impermissible. Doesn't mean that it's haram. But they choose to stay away from it. They have no interest in it, no real desire in it. A Zahid. And in a lot of books, and a lot of the biographies of the Salaf, you'll find that they were people who they described, they'll say he was a Zahid. He wasn't really busy with a lot of things that people were busy with from the dunya. And it doesn't mean that the things were haram, that they were impermissible. But, as he says, قِلَّةُ الرَّغْبَةِ, the desire for that thing is not there. طيب, say for example, it could be sports, right? Not to say it's haram, but a person may just They have no interest in it. They have no interest in how, cars, the details of cars. Not that it's impermissible to know the details of cars. There's nothing wrong with it. But a person may stay away from anything that they don't really see it be a benefit. They have no desire. طيب. Also in this chapter, he says al-wara'. Al-wara'. So first word is zuhud, which a lot of times is translated as abstinence, to stay away, right? They stay away from things. It has nothing to do with something being permissible or impermissible. طيب. The zahid, the person who has this abstinence, is not a thing of halal and haram, but their desire, they don't have any interest in it. And he brings the definition of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. He says, تَرْكُ مَا لَا يَنْفَعُكَ فِي آخِرَتِكَ. He says, it's to leave off those things that won't benefit you in the hereafter. A zuhud. That abstinence, to leave all things that have no benefit as far as the hereafter. Doesn't mean that the thing is haram. But a person may look at something and say, all right, there's no benefit. That's not going to benefit me in the hereafter. So they lose total interest in it. طيب, al-wara'. He says, فَمَعْنَاهُ تَرْكُ الْأُمُورِ الْمُشْتَبِهَةِ. Leaving off the things that are doubtful. The doubtful. Things that are doubtful. إذا اشتبهت الأمور ولم تدري هل هي حلال أو حرام. فالورع أن تتركها لله عز وجل. Al-wara' is to stay away from those things that a person, they don't know. Is this thing permissible or impermissible? Is it halal or haram? They're not sure. They're not sure of the ruling on something. Right? So when it comes to these type of issues, it's a mushkila, it's a problem. They're not really sure. I don't know if it's halal, I don't know if it's permissible or if it's impermissible. I really don't know. Right? From al-wara' is that a person leaves it all together. Just to be on the safe side. Because it could be something that's haram. It could be something that's worthy of punishment. And it could be permissible. And that's the point of the word al-wara', is leaving off something that a person has doubt. They leave it off for Allah's sake. So these are the two chapters. This hadith comes under this chapter. So the beginning of the hadith says, Nu'man ibn Bashir, Nu'man ibn Bashir, radiyallahu anhuma, he says, سمعت رسول الله يقول وأهوى النعمان بأصبعيه إلى أذنيه. He says, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, and at this point in this narration, it says that Nu'man pointed to his ears. طيب? He pointed to his ears. Which, what would be the benefit of even mentioning that in the narration? The picture is, Nu'man ibn Bashir is narrating a hadith. So he says, Sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam yaqul. He said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, and when he said this, he pointed to his own ears. Huh? Jade, telling the other people to listen. That's a good one. Mumkin. Right? Yeah? Or, Sami'tu, I heard the messenger say. Huh?
He's saying what he heard, but he just pointed to his ear saying, I heard the messenger saying,
I heard with my own ears. Exactly.
Nah.
There you are. Emphasizing that I heard it with my own ears. It's not secondhand information from somebody else. I heard it with my own ears from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This shows how detailed they were when they were narrating hadith, just to bring the whole picture. Right? Sami'tu Rasulullah yaqul, and he pointed to his ears. And then the hadith begins, Inna al-halala bayyinun. That the halal, the things that are permissible in al-Islam are clear. The halal is clear. The halal is clear and the haram is clear. As the Prophet ﷺ said. They're clear في كتاب الله عز وجل وهو ما نص الله على أنه حرام So how do we know something is haram? There's a couple different ways to know that something is impermissible in the text. Number one, it says, هُوَ مَا نَصَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى أَنَّهُ حَرَامٌ, that Allah says something is haram. Clearly. Meaning, the word that is used is the word that we know in English to be haram. In English, it's the word that is used, in Arabic, the word that is used is harama. For example, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَاللَّحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ. As Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, the third ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah uses the word حُرِّمَتْ. That word, حُرِّمَتْ, meaning haram for you. So Allah says with His own words that these things are haram. We don't have to guess, it's clear. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ Mayta, that animal that is killed and it's not slaughtered. It's not slaughtered, but it's just killed. And the name of Allah isn't mentioned over it. We know what a mayta is, an animal that's not slaughtered. Huh? For example, you know what I'm talking about? Give me an example.
Well, you're saying give you an example.
Yeah.
For you to say, if I understand what you're saying.
If you understand it,
A dead animal.
A dead animal.
That's not slaughtered in the name of Allah.
طيب.
So you want an example of that?
Yeah. طيب. An animal that's not slaughtered in Allah's name.
A pig?
No, it don't have to be a pig. It could be a cow. It could be a chicken. It could be a deer. It could be a goat. It might be a farm, right?
You said they might say, you saying if they say
I'm saying for the person is driving down the street. Yeah, roadkill. You're driving down the street, or a goat runs off the farm and runs in the street. Right? Car hits the goat and kills the goat dead. You can't slaughter it, it's already dead. That's mayta. It's haram. You can't eat that animal, it's already dead. So Allah said, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْهِ. Allah said with the word, and is haram. طيب. Another example, Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, صَيْدَ الْبَرِّ. It's impermissible for you to hunt animals. You got the white tape. As a muhrim, when you're making hajj or umrah, to take back home, we might not. People hunt. Haram, you can't hunt anything. Allah uses the word haram. Let's just say it like that. Haram is used. Way. He says that these things where Allah says is haram, that of knowing that something is haram, النهي يقتضي التحريم. If Allah, right, it's a prohibition, right? Whatever He's telling us now. The first one, first group, word harama. He used the word haram in the ayah. The second group, the word haram isn't used in the ayah. The word haram isn't used in the second group. But what is used is a prohibition. Allah says, don't do this, don't do that. So this an-nahyu yaqtadi tahrim. A prohibition means that thing is haram. If Allah says don't do it, that means whatever He's telling you to don't do is haram. That's the asl, the origin. He says, for example, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la ta'kulu riba. O you who believe, in Surah Al Imran, ayah 130, O you who believe, do not deal in interest. Do not deal in interest. In this ayah, Allah doesn't say harrama, hurrimat, like the first ayah. But Allah says, la ta'kulu riba. Don't, it literally says eat. Don't deal in interest. So that la ta'kulu shows that whatever He says after that is haram, impermissible. Difference clear? The first few ayat use the word harrama, which literally for us means haram on you. These things are haram. The second group of ayat, Allah says la. La, don't do this, don't do that. طيب. Or Allah says in another ayah, in Surah Al-Isra, ayah number 23, where Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. Allah says, and don't go near fornication. And don't go near it. He didn't say fornication is haram, like the first ayah, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ, right? He didn't say fornicating is haram. He said, لَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't even go near. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't go near fornication. إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. It's a serious fahisha, disgusting act, and it's a evil way, an evil path to take. So Allah didn't say don't commit zina. He said don't even go near zina. La taqrabu, which shows that whatever he mentions after the prohibition is haram. And la taqrabu means, as he says, tajannabu, stay away from it, means stay away from these things. Tajannabu al-wasa'il allati tufdi ila zina. Stay away from those things that might even lead to zina. Anything that will lead to zina, then stay away from it. Because the ayah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا zina. The ayah doesn't say, don't commit zina. Don't even go near it. So if the ayah is a prohibition not even to go near zina, then we know to even commit zina is haram itself. Father, you with me? The prohibition is on even going to things. Don't even go close to the act of zina, fornicating. So how about actually committing fornication itself? Of course, it's impermissible. So he says, don't even go to those things that may lead to zina. Al-wasa'il. Like what? He says, kanadha. Like looking. The look. The look could eventually lead to zina, fornicating. Or al-khalwa, being alone in private with a woman, or a woman being alone in a private area with a man. It's just them two. Al-khalwa, don't even go near those things, because those things could ultimately lead to the prohibition of zina, what Allah prohibited. Was-safr bidun mahram, and for a woman traveling without a mahram, without a guardian, as it could lead to a zina. So the ayah says, don't even go near zina. So those are how we know that things are haram. Because Allah clearly says, either He says it's haram, harama, He uses that verb, or He says la, don't do something. Tayyib. Next, the Prophet ﷺ said after that, وَالْحَلَالْ بَيِّن. The haram is bayyin, the haram is clear, because Allah spoke, He clearly says it's clear in the Quran, right? And the halal is clear. Those things, they're clear. وَهُوَ مَا نَصَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى حِلِّهِ. The same way Allah uses the verb in Arabic, حُرِّمَتْ, حُرِّمَ, haram for you is this, He uses the verb for something to be halal for us. So, He says, for example, Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah 96, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ صَيْدُ الْبَحْرِ وَطَعَامُهُ. Permissible for you, halal for you are hunting in the sea. You hunt, sea hunting. Right? That's what you do. Right? Hunting. If a person goes sea hunting for different fish or whatever they're hunting in the sea, Allah says, and He uses the verb أُحِلُّ. It's permissible, it's halal for you, and the food from the sea. So the verb is used, Allah clearly says it's halal, and it's clear. And this is what they say, nasallah ala hillihi. Allah clearly states it using that verb to mean something that's halal in Arabic. So we know that this is one way to know that something is halal. That Allah clearly says in the Quran that something is halal. أُحِلُّ لَكُمْ. I'm sorry, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ. Or He says, oh, مَا سَكَتَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. Or Allah doesn't mention. وَلَمْ يَرِدْ فِيهِ نَهْيٌ فَهُوَ حَلَالٌ. Some things Allah doesn't mention, there's no prohibition mentioned on, or Allah doesn't mention it at all, right? And there's also no prohibition found on it. So some things we find there is no prohibition, right? There's some things that we find there's no prohibition on it, right? There's nothing in the Quran saying that you can't, saying that you can do it or you can't do it. There's nothing in the Quran or in the Hadith saying that you can do it or that you can't do it. Right? So we have nothing, like we on ground zero. We don't have an ayah supporting it. We don't have a hadith supporting it. Does that mean it's haram? The fact that we don't have an ayah to support it, or we don't have a hadith to support it, does that mean something is automatically haram? No. Tayyib. On top of it, there's no ayah supporting it, and there's no hadith supporting it. There's no ayah or hadith saying that you can't do it. You with me? Both sides are basically, you don't have anything saying it's halal, you don't have anything saying it's haram. Right? In that case, it is what? Permissible. You with me? Huh? There's no hadith, there's no ayah saying that you can do it. There's no ayah or hadith also saying that you can't do it. This is a way to know something is generally permissible. Tayyib. And we don't make things that are haram. We only say something is haram if we have text to say it's haram. We only make it halal if we know that it's halal for sure. Or tayyib, khalas. So these are the two things. The Prophet ﷺ said in the beginning of the hadith that the halal is clear, because Allah said this is haram, this is halal, or He didn't say anything about it, there's no prohibition. And the haram is clear, because Allah said this is haram, or He gave a prohibition on it. Tayyib. Then He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَبَيْنَهُمَا, meaning between the halal and the haram, between those two clear sections, or those two clear qisms, a section, or categories. Between those two categories, He brings a third category, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He brings a third category. He says, وَبَيْنَهُمَا, بَيْنَ الْحَلَالِ وَالْحَرَامِ, between those two categories, He says, أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ, things that are not clear. There's some things that are not clear, meaning they're mushkila, يعني لا يدرى هل هي من قسم الحلال أو من قسم الحرام. That a person doesn't know. He come across some things a person doesn't know. Is this halal or haram? Which category does it fit into? A gray area. Tayyib. Prophet ﷺ said, some things are clear. The halal is clear, the haram is clear. وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ. But then there's some issues that are not clear. Tayyib. Why aren't they clear? There are a lot of reasons they're not clear. Many reasons. And in this other sharh, Shaykh Abdullah Bassan, rahimahullah, he mentions 5 reasons. And there are many reasons why some issues are not clear. As he says, they're not clear, نظرا لاختلاف الأدلة فيها. So now we're going to read a few reasons why issues are sometimes they're not clear. As the Prophet ﷺ said, firstly, the halal is clear and the haram is clear. Then he brought a third category and said between the halal and haram, there's some issues that يعني أمور المشتبهات, they're not really clear, they're mushkila. So he says, هناك قسم ثالث مشتبه الحكم. There's some things that the hukum on it, the ruling on the thing, it's not really clear to everybody. Some people might know it, some people might not know it. Right? It says غير واضح الحلو أو الحرمة وهذا الاشتباه راجع إلى أمور. That a person is not clear. Is it halal or haram? Now why is it that we find these issues that we say, okay, the ulama differ, the scholars of Islam differ. There's a difference of opinion on paying zakat al-fitr. Can you pay the zakat at the end of Ramadan, the zakat al-fitr? Can you pay with food? You pay with food, or can you pay with money too? Right? That's an issue. The person says, well, the scholars differ. I thought the halal was clear and the haram was clear. Is it permissible? Is it halal to pay with food? Or is it halal to pay with money? Or is it haram to pay with money? The Prophet ﷺ said, the halal bayyin wal haram bayyin. But he also mentioned the third category. Between the halal and haram, there's some issues that have some gray areas. Some khilaf in them. So a person says, well, the ulama differ, the scholars of Islam differ. Not just now, the scholars now, back to the time of Imam Abu Hanifa, the Salaf. The early, way back to the Sahaba. The ulama differ, we say the ulama differ, but the differing doesn't start with contemporary scholars. No disrespect to none of the ulama. But the differing didn't start with the contemporary scholars within the last 100 years. The differing didn't start with the ulama of Saudi. The differing in these issues go back to the Sahaba, back to the Salaf, way back, 1,000 years ago. The same issues were being dealt with, unless it's an issue that didn't exist then. Right? From the Nawazil, new issues that maybe didn't exist then, like maybe, for example, donating organs, right? Stuff like that. New things that didn't exist then, okay, you may find the issue. But we're talking about these issues that we're usually dealing with on an everyday basis, they go back. So why do the ulama differ? The first issue, or the first reason, which it doesn't, they're not restricted to these are some examples. Ta'arud al-adillah. Ta'arud al-adillah. Meaning, let's just say you have two hadiths and they seemingly contradict each other. It looks like, when you read both hadith, it looks like this one is saying A and hadith number 2 is saying B. It looks like they're banging heads, like they're saying the opposite thing. Is this possible? Is it possible? Is it possible for the Prophet ﷺ, authentic hadith? Is it possible for two authentic hadiths to contradict one another? It's possible, huh? For two authentic hadiths to be contradictory. Meaning, what that means is, the Prophet ﷺ ultimately, if we're saying there's two authentic hadiths and they're contradictory, that means that we say with that the Prophet ﷺ contradicted himself. Mumkin? La, no. The Prophet ﷺ never contradicted himself. Abadan. We never say the Prophet ﷺ contradicted himself, or that, even if it's two ayat, that Allah said in this ayah here and then Allah said in this ayah here, the ayahs are contradictory. See? Your book has mistakes. If we say that, we say the book has mistakes. If we say that, we say our messenger, as-sadiq al-masduq, the truthful one, al-amin, he made a mistake. If we say something like that, if we were to say that, then that's what it ultimately leads to. The hadith, they never contradict. Abadan. La yumkin. It's not possible that the Prophet ﷺ contradicted himself. It's not possible that Allah contradicted himself in one ayat and is contradictory. So how is it now they say ta'arud al-adillah? The dalil, two texts, they clash. That clashing is based on the reader's understanding of the text, not the text. Our text, alhamdulillah, the Quran is perfect. No contradictions in the Quran. So the person that's reading, if they find a contradiction, the contradiction is in their understanding. Their fahm al-nusus of the text. Not in the text itself, and that goes for the hadith also. So when you have these things, they look like they're contradictory. This is يعني بحيث لا يظهر الجمع. The person reading is not able to make the combination. How do you combine these? You find two hadiths, say, hey, it's saying this here and it's saying, how do I? And that's what the ulama do. They find all the dalil and then they put them together to make it has to fit. If it doesn't fit, that's from my weak understanding. طيب? They're not able to make tarjih. He says, هذا مشتبه في حق المجتهد الذي يطلب الأحكام من أدلتها. This is for example, the scholar, the mujtahid, the scholar who actually can look at the text and they can look at the dalil and they can extract the ruling from the text itself. What in this ayat, for example, how do they do that? For example, the ayat that says, where Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, right? And don't go near fornication. The scholar looks at this ayat and say, okay, what makes fornication haram from that ayat? Huh? Where Allah says don't go near, the prohibition. The prohibition is a nahi. So the prohibition is what they call the angle of proof from this ayat. The angle of proof, because I'm probably going to say, what's your proof on that? And they run off an ayat to you. Tell you, what in the ayat proves what you're saying? What proves that zina is haram, impermissible, fornicating is impermissible. Allah is a nahi, it's a prohibition on it. Allah says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا, don't even go near it. So when the ulama, they look and they say, okay, boom. They extract from the text, okay, based on this text, this is impermissible. And they do that for all of the issues. That's just one clear one since we're using it. Tayyib. Sometimes they come and they're not able to, the scholar is not able to do it. The scholar, not us. Sometimes we don't even understand the text itself anyway. The scholar who understands the text, they gather all the text, they're not able to come up with a final ruling. Ta'arid al-adillah. Right? So in this case, they may not put a ruling on it. They may say, tawakkuf. I'm not, they don't put a ruling. They don't say it's halal, they don't say it's haram, they might just stop. They don't put a ruling on something. Based on not the text being contradictory, them understanding how to come to a final conclusion, they're not able to do it. And the ulama on different levels, all of them are not on the same level. So all of them can't do it. All scholars are not able to do it. Scholars. All of them are not on the same level, and they're all not able to do what the other one is capable of doing. That's one way. One reason for the different is that the dalil looks like it's contradictory based on what's in front of a person. طيب. He says, وَمِنْهَا تَعَارُضُ الْأَقْوَالِ الْعُلَمَاءِ وَتَضَارِبُهَا. Another reason that these issues are gray is that the scholars themselves have differed. So this Sheikh A says it's obligatory. Sheikh B says no, it's sunnah. So now a person comes and they're reading the book of Sheikh Fulan and he says such and such is sunnah. So they say it's a sunnah. Then they pick up another book, the same hadith or the same ayat is explained, and Sheikh B says this thing is wajib, obligatory. So now they're saying, well, if it's obligatory, if I don't do it, if something is obligatory and I don't do it, that means I can be punished. So Sheikh B is saying I can be punished. Sheikh A is saying la, it's sunnah. So now it becomes a gray area. Person, I don't really know which one is right. Sheikh bin Baz, is Sheikh bin Baz's statement right or is Sheikh Al-Albani's statement right? Sheikh bin Baz said it's sunnah, Sheikh Al-Albani said it's bid'ah. For example, like the issue of putting the hands back on the chest after the ruku'. After we come out of ruku' and we stand back up, we salam rahmatullah. Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah said it's bid'ah to put the hands back on the chest. Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Al-Thamaraat said it's sunnah. So a person reads both books, they say, well, Sheikh Al-Albani said it's bid'ah. But then they read another book, Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh other ulama, they say it's the sunnah to do it. That's a big difference in the hukum, right? So a person may say, right, it's gray. It's not clear like the ayah where Allah said, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ الْمَيْتَةِ, that the dead animal is haram for you. It's not clear like that. It's not clear like the ayah where Allah said, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ, where Allah said permissible for you hunting the animals in the sea. It's not clear like that, right? This is a reason for the area being gray. So what does a person do in these gray areas? In these gray areas, and this is the point of the hadith, is that a person stays away from the gray area as much as they can. As much as they can.
How do we know what a gray area is?
Either you know the issue or you don't. And that's the thing. The thing is, it might not be clear to me, but you may know the issue better than me. So it was gray to me right now today may not be gray to you. And it could fluctuate from day to day. What's gray to you doesn't necessarily mean it's gray to everybody. I might have a little more clarity on this issue than you. You might have a little more clarity and be a little more comfortable in this issue than the next brother. You with me? And that's the problem. We try to hold each other. We try to hold people to our own level. If I don't know something, it don't mean everybody in the room don't know it. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't know something, doesn't mean nobody else in the room knows it. Right? So these gray areas, and at that point, as he says in the next one, he says, why? That a person just stays away as much as possible from those gray areas. I'm going to just stay safe. I don't know if it's halal or haram. I'm going to just leave it off to the best of a person's ability. طيب. He says the third one, he says, ما جاء في النهي عنها حديث ضعيف. It's possible that the hadith that a person is being used is a weak hadith. The hadith with a prohibition maybe is weak. To some. That's what we got to understand. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes to this scholar the hadith is weak, and to the next scholar the hadith is not weak. So scholar A doesn't use the hadith, while scholar B does use the hadith. And therefore you have a khilaf, difference of opinion. They don't argue and start calling each other names and don't give them salams, don't get your hair cut from them and all that kind of stuff. They don't go into all that. It's a khilaf mu'tabar. It's a recognized difference of opinion. Meaning the scholars, everybody knows. The fact that we don't know that that's an old issue and people been different over the 1,000 years, that's due to our ignorance. That has nothing to do with the real issue. A lot of issues we argue over, the ulama of Islam been arguing, they've been issues old, 1,000 years old. Nobody's going crazy over them except us. We the only ones going crazy on each other. They differ and they walk by and everything is everything. And majority of the issues, we're talking about majority, not every single issue, majority of the issues. A lot of the issues we deal with are like that. He says another reason, he says, al-makruhat jami'uha. Those things that are disliked, he says they could possibly lead to something that is makruh, is disliked. It could possibly lead a person to doing the haram. Meaning, something in itself may not be impermissible. Right? It's makruh, it's disliked. But if a person continues to do things that are disliked, it could possibly lead him to doing something that is impermissible. So what does a person do? He says, فَإِنَّ النَّفْسَ إِذَا عَصَمَتْ عَنِ الْمَكْرُوهِ أَهَابَتْ الْإِقْدَامَ عَلَيْهِ وَرَأَتْهُ مَعْصِيَةً. So if a person finds out something is disliked, they stay away from it in totality. Why? If they stay away from, and it becomes, the disliked things become as if they're disobedience to a person. This way they stay totally away from it. They cut off the path of going to the haram, as the disliked things lead to the haram. So they cut off the path to the haram by treating the things that are disliked as if they are haram when they're really not. So they stay totally away from them. Point being that a person stays away from things that are gray. And because it's gray to you, doesn't mean you can force everybody that you meet. Everybody that you come across is gray to you, so you make it gray on everybody. And if they don't stay away from it, now they got problems. They don't love Islam, they don't love the Sunnah, they're not, because it's gray to you. You can't do that. We don't have the right. People don't have the right. We don't have the right that one general person, a general regular Muslim doesn't have the right to force another Muslim to, in an issue where it is differing. There might be sometimes 3 or 4 opinions. If you think opinion B is the strongest, that don't mean that everybody in this room thinks opinion B is the strongest. We all just follow who we think is the strongest at this point. These are things that he mentioned, some issues that are reasons for differing. He says the last one, al-mubah alladhi yukhsha an yakuna dhari'a ila al-muharram. The last thing is things that are permissible. They're permissible things to do, but a person may fear, or it could be feared that the more you do that, if you keep doing that, it could lead to you doing something haram. For example, if we take something like something that's mubah, working out. That's something khayr. Working out is permissible. Type of person goes to the extreme in working out. They go overboard. Now they start delaying the salat. Right? Now they could lead to, first they're working out, type salatul dhuhr. 3-4 hours, dhuhr comes in, now it's asr, they don't pray. Salat, they delay the salat past its time, haram. Right? Or first they might delay the salat all the way until the last minute. It's almost asr, let me hurry up and pray. Working out is permissible, but it could lead to, now they praying at the last minute. And they keep doing that. I'm going to just pray. What time is asr? Asr's at 4:30. I'm going to pray Lord at 4:25. They make that their program. Working out is permissible. Right? Well, whatever else it is. Until they move it out, until they go into what? Delaying dhuhr all the way until after the adhan of asr. Now, I'm going to just I'm going to just combine dhuhr and asr. I'm going to just pray dhuhr and asr together. Right? It's permissible to work out, or anything else, where it could lead to something else. And these are just different reasons that issues could be, or the ulama differ on issues. After he mentioned that third category, which is the gray area, we just call the third category the gray area. That the halal is clear, the haram is clear, and between the halal and haram, there is an area that is gray. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, La ya'lumuhunna kathir. People don't know the ruling on those issues in the gray area. The halal is clear, the haram is clear, but what about the gray area? The Prophet ﷺ said, many people don't know, is it halal or haram? That gray area they don't know. Many people. La ya'lumuhunna kathir min al-nas. Shaykh Fawzani says, وَهُمْ الْعَوَامِ الْعَوَامِ لَا يَعْرِفُونَ حُكْمَهَا. He said, and those people are the general Muslims. وَأَمَا الْعُلَمَاء فَهُمْ, they have, as he says, from the knowledge, have knowledge of that gray area. So it's not that nobody knows the area, the gray area. No, some people do know them. But as the Prophet ﷺ said, many people don't know that gray area. And if you don't know the gray area, the point of that is to stay away from the gray area. To stay away from the gray area. Tayyib. And he says this has a lot to do with the issues of khilaf. The issues of khilaf. And a lot of times, and I'll just use that example again, the issue of the hands on the chest after ruku', Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah said it's a bid'ah. Bid'ah, innovation. The Prophet ﷺ said every innovation is a misguidance, and every misguidance is in the hellfire. Tayyib. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah said to put his hands back on the chest after ruku', when you come up out of ruku', is a bid'ah, innovation. Tayyib. So people are going to come to you now and say, Shaykh Al-Albani said it's a bid'ah. Like, you got to take that. Shaykh Al-Albani said it. Muhaddith rahimahullah. Tayyib. Shaykh Al-Thamaraat said it's a sunnah. Other ulama say it's a sunnah. How can I come now and make you take which one I see to be stronger? I can't do it. I don't have the right to do that. Nobody has the right to go to the next person and say, listen, this sheikh said this, you got to take it. Based on what? You with me? Ulama, the scholars are held to, maybe even more, a higher standard. We're all bound by the Quran and the Sunnah. Fahm al-Salaf. Nobody's above it. So if it comes to an area where it's differing, there's more than one opinion. Sometimes it's 3 opinions, sometimes it's 4. Tayyib. If this brother sees opinion A to be the strongest, alhamdulillah. I see opinion B to be stronger. Right? He's with the opinion of Shaykh Al-Albani. I'm with the opinion of Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah. Tayyib. They both scholars of the Sunnah. We're supposed to, and that's a whole issue in itself, how to deal with differing. How do we deal with the ikhtilaf? When there are issues that have khilaf on them, how do we deal with them amongst one another? That's a huge problem we got in this city. Huge. Jahl, ignorant. It's ignorant. Meaning lack of knowledge, not ignorant behavior-wise. That too, it leads to that, but the lack of knowledge pushes us to a whole nother extreme. A whole nother extreme. Sheikh said it's bid'ah, Sheikh said it's sunnah. Tell you, which one is it? They both use dalil. As a matter of fact, Yahamakallah, the one who says it's bid'ah, they're using the same hadith. Sometimes they use the same hadith, but they interpret the hadith different. They extract two different things from the hadith. So how can one person come and make the next person force them? You don't have the right. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Alhamdulillah, the Prophet ﷺ said, after mentioning the three categories, the halal is clear, the haram is clear, the third category, the category that's not clear and that a lot of people, they don't really know. He said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبَهَاتِ. And this is the point. فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبَهَاتِ فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَإِرْضِهِ. That the person who stays away from that third category, the gray one, the Prophet ﷺ said, ابتعد عنها. The one who stays away from the gray area, right? فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَإِرْضِهِ. He has safeguarded and protected two things. He protected two things. His religion and his honor. You protect your religion and your honor by staying away from the gray areas. How is that? Istabra lidinihi. He stays away from the gray area. Why? How does he protect his deen? Because the gray area is possible that it's haram. So you don't go to, you don't know if it's haram. You say, well, I don't know if it's haram, and I'm just do it. From what and that's the chat. That's this chapter. Safety from the bad, from the angle of being safe. A person stays away. A person stays away from the angle of being safe. I'm gonna take the safe route. I'm gonna just stay away. I don't know if it's halal or haram. It could be halal. It might be halal. It might be haram now. So what if it is haram and you just keep going and doing haram, right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever stays away from this, then they say they protected their deen. Number one, from going into the haram, right? Well, and he protects his own honor. And this is important because it shows, this hadith shows that we don't do actions for people. We don't do ibadah and worship for people. But it shows that we should be concerned about our image. We should be concerned about what people think about us. As Muslims, we should be concerned about the picture that we give off. And therefore the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever stays away from these great things, they protect their deen and they protect their honor. How? Because if it's an issue that is questionable, what happens when a brother or a sister does something in public that's questionable? What's the reason? What happens in public? This ain't a trick question. It ain't. I'm serious. This ain't a trick question. You want to know, yes? Yeah. If we're outside, especially our women, there's no getting around it that they're Muslim. They're Muslim and they're Muslim. They wear a scarf, whatever they got on. Everybody knows she's a Muslim. She does something out in public that's questionable. You're gonna get a lot of looks. Look, you see what she doing? What a brother, you got a kufi on, or if you know, you got a beard, you got a sajda, whatever. There's a sign that there's a Muslim. Person is Muslim in public. They do something questionable. It brings attention to the person. Say, yo, look at this Muslim. Look what they doing. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said for the person to stay away from that is better. Which means we should be concerned about the image that we give off. Not this, I don't know what this is. Internet talk. Nobody can judge me. Allah knows what's in my heart. And, you know, all that kalam. Stuff that has no, that's not. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever stays from those doubtful matters, those things that are questionable, those things that are, as he says, كَفَّ كَلَامَ النَّاسِ عَنْهُ. That those things, don't do something that's going to cause people to talk about you. There's no need to do it. We're not talking about the things that are obligatory. We might pray somewhere, and people might like be mad because Muslims praying. Nah, prayer is obligatory. Things that are questionable. You don't know if it's halal or haram in the first place. And it's possible that if you do it and people see it, it might put a bad light on you. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever stays away from those things, he's saved. He's protected his deen and his honor. That we don't put ourselves in a predicament that people are going to talk bad or we're going to give Islam a bad reputation. We should be concerned about our reputations. He says, لأنه لو وقع في هذه الشبهة لتكلم الناس فيه. If a person does these type of things, that the people are going to talk about him. This type of stuff we should stay away from. Right? أما إذا ترك هذه الشبهة مشتبهة فالناس يكفون عنه. But if they never did it, then they wouldn't have to worry about it. Nobody's going to say anything about them because you didn't do it. And that could be relative from place to place, from city to city. Right? It could be relative from city to city. He says, فَدَلَّ عَلَى أَنَّ الْإِنسَانِ يَتَجَنَّبُ مَا يُذَمُّ بِهِ. He said this hadith shows that we should stay away from things that are blameworthy. We out in public, we represent Islam, period. We're a representation of the religion. That we should stay away from things. We talking about things here. You don't know the ruling on them. I don't know if I should be doing this or not. What do? It's best to stay away from it. He says, وَلَا يَجْعَلْ النَّاسِ سَبِيلًا إِلَى ذَمِّهِ. He said, don't even give people a reason to be able to say something about you. SubhanAllah. We shouldn't even give people a reason. That's a lot of things. That's like a big door. We out in public, do not even give people a reason to say something. Of course, we know we're not perfect. I'm saying the brother saying we gotta be perfect and walking around on eggshells. We're not saying that. We're talking about issues, we don't know them in the first place. We're talking about issues, I don't know if it's halal or haram. I don't know what it is in the first place. It's better to what? To stay away from it. He says, and he brings a line of poetry. مَنْ دَعَ النَّاسَ إِلَى ذَمِّهِ ذَمُّهُ بِالْحَقِّ وَالْبَاطِلِ. Whoever opens the door or does something and they open that door for people to criticize him, the people are going to criticize him with the truth that he did and with falsehood. And they're going to put lies on him. Huh? You ever had that? Somebody come to you and they say, yo, Fulan did this. You're like, yeah, he did that. He did this too. I don't know about all that. I was there. He ain't do all that now. You know what I'm saying? I was with him. It happens all the time. And that's what the poet said. Whoever opens up the door for people to criticize him and blame him, they do stuff to blame him, they're going to blame him with the true thing that he did, and they're going to put lies on him also. So he says, فَالْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ مَجَالِ الْكَلَامِ النَّاسِ أُتْرُكْهُ. So if it comes up something where it's like, you're not really sure about it, and if I do it as possible, it's going to put some bad light, shed a bad light on me, it's going to tarnish my name or something like that, and you don't know. Remember, these are issues you don't know. Then it's better to leave them. Cut that whole pathway off. He said this is what's called al-wara'. This is called al-wara'. Which means that what if a person they didn't know, and they did do it anyway? We're not saying that they can't do the gray area. The point of the hadith is it's better to stay away from the gray area. Hold off till you find out. But what if somebody did do it? He says haram? Not necessarily. But it could be. That's the whole point. A person doesn't know, so it's better to stay away from it. So he says, and we'll stop here, this hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever stays away from these areas, that he has protected his deen, his religion, and his honor, or her honor. He says, Shaykh Fawzan, دَلَّ عَلَى أَنَّ الْإِنسَانِ كَمَا يُحَافِظ عَلَى دِينِهِ مِنَ النَّقْصِ. The same way that we strive to keep our deen perfect, the same that we try hard to keep our deen perfected, to keep our iman high, the same that we try to, he says, أَيْضًا يُحَافِظ عَلَى إِرْضِهِ. Is the same way that we should strive and be diligent about keeping our name clear. Keeping our name out of foolishness. The same that we strive to make the 5 salawat and make sure we do all the stuff and all the sunnah is the same way we should be concerned about our names. our honor. And that mess, as they used to say, that mess of nobody can judge me. We already know that. Everybody knows. Only Allah can judge me. You know Allah is the judge. We already know that. But that's not what the Prophet ﷺ taught us. He taught us that we should stay away from those things. And that people say that. They say that only Allah can judge me when they doing haram. They doing the haram, and they put it on the internet, on Facebook and all the other ones, and then they turn around and say, why are you judging me? Doing the haram. The Prophet ﷺ here is talking about the issues. A person's not sure if it's halal, haram. It's gray. To stay away from the gray, so that if it happens to be something, that blame doesn't come on us, which shows that we should be, as Sheikh Saleh Fawzan says, we should be also concerned. We should have a high concern about our names and our honor. La yatruk irdahu yulaq wa yudannis. Don't be a person who allows their name to be tarnished. That we allow our names and our honor to be tarnished. We should have some jealousy, and we should, as a Muslim, we should be have some pride in our honor. And then next the Prophet ﷺ says, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبَهَاتِ, that whoever does go into those gray areas, he says, وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ, whoever goes into those the gray area, that they don't really know the ruling on it, that they have, as it says in the hadith, that they have fell into the haram. And then the Shaykh says that it not literally fell into haram, but they've taken a path. They've taken the path that is it could eventually lead to the haram. Meaning that, point being, wara'an, we should stay away from it. Is the top of there? Sheikh Noah. We'll stop there till next week and finish the end of the hadith. Inshallah, any questions? صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.